the leading position. So let's see if he can keep that up as we jump into game number 3. Bryce, Frodan, take it away.
Here we go, game number 3. It's Championship Sunday here in the North American Regional Finals with Frodan and Bryce. Let's hop on board with the player that was leading it all, tied in first in average placement going into today. It was Kyvix, a player that you just heard from Iniko's mouth saying that it's just so hard to predict what he's going to do. I do think this tournament has been some of the most predictable play from Kyvix after watching 2 days of it. We'll see if he does bust out any dark tech right away. Starts off with a heavy gold opener, has 9 gold on the bench, can choose to make gold or hold on to some of these potential valuable units.
Yeah, this is a really interesting early decision point for Kyvix. Most of the field would lean into making 10 gold in this situation. Most people think that making 10 gold on 1-3 is just way too powerful of an economic opening to be passing on it. We haven't yet seen what the Mirage is. The fact that he's prioritizing holding on to it could be one or two things. It could be Pirates, in which case he knows he's getting gold off of it anyway. The other thing that it could be is he started Rod, and if it's one of the stronger Mirage variants, then having this Leona pair to combine with this Yone early could be very, very powerful.
That's right. Probably has the opportunity to have it both ways, hold all of the units he wants. It's Warlords, by the way, which means that he's getting stacks even this early, which is really nice. However, Kyvix has been playing around Guardians as a key part of his strategy, and you can see he has 4 Guardians in the form of Rakan and that Nasus, which is why he held on to it for so long. But making 10 gold is too good of a prospect. Even to the point where maybe you could have argued you could have sold it for 1 round earlier, making gold 2 rounds before people can even think about making the first gold is a huge benefit. Gold. It's a max gold opener and potential some regret for selling that Rakan too early.
Yeah, big time regret for selling that Rakan too early. I was thinking it. I was like, what if he gets more gold here? I don't know that I want to get rid of that unit. And then he does. That's just devastating. And you know what? If you have a gold opener, this is a good opening to be able to play around because he could theoretically play Deja. Like you said, he's stacking those Warlord stacks early. Deja's going to be less contested because it's not one of the most popular Mirage variants, but it is a very strong one if you have the right setup for it. So would not at all be surprised to see Kyvix lean to that. He can also just level here and still make 10. This economic opening is so powerful, and it combines with a fairly decent board and a fairly decent generic board power augment. This is an excellent opening for Kyvix in this game.
I think a lot of people would look at that option in particular and think, wow, that was the one I was least expecting. You had Rich get richer off of a gold opening, which is really powerful because you can compound the fact that you're making 20 gold when people are still not making their first. And then you'll be able to run ahead. Kyvix been playing strong economic starts for most of this tournament, had success. The second would be the Mirage emblem. However, I would throw caution to anybody who wants to pick a Mirage crest with Warlords in particular because it just doesn't do enough in the late stages of the game. And while it does provide that early game tempo that you're looking at, you only have one option, which is to play Deja. This second win does keep him open to theoretically still playing a bunch of other different compositions, which is what I think Kyvix wants to do. Yes, he is playing similar-ish things, but his paths to get there have been very varied, and he's open to playing a bunch of different lines.
Yeah, it's a really interesting opening because I think different players will play it so differently, and you start to see some of Kyvix's philosophy on the game would ultimately work out for him. Only time is going to tell on that one. Meanwhile, we're hopping on board with Cloud9's K3 Soju, our current tournament leader, tied with his buddy Prestevent. He has an okay opening, but he's not able to get Lagoons online, 2 swords and a belt plus metabolic. What are you thinking from the situation?
Well, I'm thinking Zeke's to start things off, but I just can't help but notice that Soju has 4 pairs. It does have a Malphite too, but it is just not looking like a very comfy opening because you're sacrificing your economy but hoping that you'll streak. The only question is, does Soju want to lose streak on purpose? Because he does have Metabolic Accelerator and he does have enough to kill units. In this case, he's killing at least 1. Probably just staying at 1 given that the Ascension is kicking in for Prestevent, who is also contesting him right now in terms of that first place point standings. So I think he has a lot of room. My immediate instinct leads to Seraphine Graves for that bulldozer / wire gun, whatever you want to call it, but we'll see.
We will see. Meanwhile, we are joining Goobum's board for the first time. He grabbed a Bruiser crest, not a super popular emblem, but I know that there are a lot of players that think this is actually a super underrated augment. How are you feeling about Bruiser emblem as an opening augment in the current meta?
Oh man, I actually really love Bruiser emblem. I think it's actually exactly what you're looking for. at this stage of the game in particular on this patch. You want high tempo, which is you get a Jackson or Bruiser, so no matter what, you get a big injection of HP. It bridges to some of the most powerful trees in the game, like Jade and Shimmer Scale. And it actually unlocks another composition that people don't think about really often, which is a Vertical Whispers comp. Because by having more Bruisers, you're giving yourself more tempo and time, and 6 Whispers is very powerful specifically from that win streak position because of how much HP you get from 4 Bruiser. If you love 4 Guardians or 6 Guardians, you should love 4 Bruiser early game. And by that logic, Goobums is in an excellent position. Level to 5, this is his comfort zone. Goobums is coming for that comeback.
Yeah, he is. He struggled to start the day, but we heard Crowan highlighting the top of show how much preparation a player like Goobums does for this type of event. He knows all of the different lines, and so a lot of people would not be taking Bruiser or Crest because they're just not comfortable with it. He is very comfortable. He knows the directions he can go, and it gives him the opportunity to play a line that might be a little bit different than the rest of the field might play, like that Vertical Whispers.
Taking a break and looking at how the augments shape up right now. Sag with Electro Charge. He's been leaning a lot towards that Jade Soifin line. We have Rainplosion with Bear together. Robin with an early commitment, which is something that he tends to thrive in with press the attack, getting the true damage off the Swift Shot. So already some commitments in terms of what people want to be thinking about. But some people are a little bit more open-ended. Are the 2 Bear together players going to try to force Seraphine? If so, does that mean Soju's going to be pushed off of it? There's a lot of questions going into my mind when I look at that augment.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to follow the lobby complexion as we get into Stage 3 and see exactly how many people are on that Seraphine line and what other direction some of these folks might be going. Soju, with that Metabolic Accelerator, actually was able to get a win, so he's up at 94 HP, and he's in a spot where maybe he could be thinking about kind of fast 8, fast 9 strategies in addition to Seraphine. We'll have to see what kind of a board state he can ultimately cobble together. Meanwhile, we're joining Sag, a player that started off the day really strong, a brutal bottom out in the last game, actually. We didn't get a chance to see exactly what was going on there, but he was so strong HP-wise, and then he just plummeted out into 8th place. He's in another strong early game position with 100 HP. He's been struggling overall to find win streaks in the early game so far this tournament, but that's not because he doesn't know how to. It's just he's been struggling to find the combination of units. Going up against Kurram, one of our other win streakers alongside Goobums, this fight is incredibly close with that. Ezreal is stacking up and should have enough damage to get through this Braum and then deal with this Kai'Sa 1 in the back line. So that is a fight lost for Kurram. 2 people remaining on the win streak, Sag and Goobums, heading into the final fight of stage number 2.
It's just tough when you know so many players in your lobby want to win streak just because it's built into their playstyle, at least their preferred playstyle. And then the meta reinforces that. It's funny because it works the opposite for lose streakers. If you're a lose streak player, you want more lose streakers in your lobby because you're going to take less punishment in stage 2 because everyone's more open to playing weaker boards. That's why Milk cites that one of his favorite players is, for example, like Spencer. Loves playing lobbies with him. Rest in peace. As we do take a look at Sag's board and see if he can go head-to-head with Goobums and get ahead. Here it is. That Bruiser Crest has revealed it. That is a Gnar 2 with Edge of Night and Rage Blade. That is a very powerful combination. And again, keeps himself perfectly threaded between the lines. He still can just play Jades from here. He also can play that Whispers Siphon line that I talked about because of that Rage Blade.
Yeah, and this Gnar 2 with the Bruiser Crest and the duo items is just an absolute monster in this fight. The Electro Charge is getting some damage, and the Railroad's down. Sag is going to be able to maintain this win streak. It's such a pivotal fight when you have the 2 win streakers playing each other at the end of stage 2. One of them is going to be sorely disappointed in this situation that as Goobums, Sag gets, I think, his first full win streak of this tournament so far.
Wow, that's massive if that's the case. And he did end up sacrificing a little bit of gold. He could have made 10, but he held on to Zippy. And with that Rage Blade, makes me think once more, Sag has said his primary game plan will be to play either Deja or the Jade lines. And so it looks like he's already had made that commitment. And it makes more sense seeing some other players that committed to that Jade line. So we'll see if that works out for him.
Yeah, we will see if it works out. Meanwhile, we're joining Rainplosion, our lone lose streaker. She has been playing from behind, as we highlighted at the top of the show. She's also been playing a lot greedier with her itemization. Both those things are on full display here. Her only completed item here, the Locket of the Iron Solari, came from her augment. She had multiple swords open, which means she started sword, took sword, gets another sword dropped, and another bow. It is an embarrassment of riches on the AD item side of things. Unfortunately, no holders yet. There is is a Rengar in the shop, and so she has to think about whether or not she is interested in potentially pivoting into the Rengar. She could easily go Runaan's Hurricane and Deathblade. She would have a sword left over to think about sacrificing a Zeke's if she wanted to go to that Darkflight line. So she's somewhere between Darkflight and Seraphine Graves comp. Where are you leaning if you're in her situation?
Hold on a second. There's another sword tucked behind the sword. She had 4 swords in total. You know, this might be, and I'm not saying this because I think this is what she's going to do, but because I know she has talked about it, but it theoretically could be a Varus spot. She talked about how she specifically liked Runan Hurricane's Rage Blade +1, and she is open to it, and she does have an extra sword for a secondary Zeke, or for a secondary support item like Zeke's. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. The only caveat is that she's not in the position of dominance where you would like to play it. You want to play it from ahead. You want to have the astrals and everything going up. Speaking of playing from ahead, it's stage 3. It's another Itis spotting.
Yeah, that unit is illegal. Oh my god! Hold the phone. A double trouble is offered to Rainplosion in this spot, playing from behind with Better Together, with the itemization that she has slammed. I know most players would instant grab that and start rolling down for the Darkflight line, and it seems like that is exactly the direction in which she is going.
Yeah, I think Darkflight makes a ton of sense from here. There's very few other options that she can explore. She rolled past a Rel, so she's going for the Varus.
Double Trouble Varus?
Double Trouble Varus is still a strong comp if you're able to have the stars align, but this does not look like the stars that you would write home about right now, because this is kind of weak. And the fact that she still has been a little bit indecisive, she rolled down for what looked like to be 2-star Jackson, that's it. This is looking dicey for Rain. I still don't like her position that much. She doesn't even have, for example, a second copy of this Kaisa to make sure that she hits that much harder.
Yeah, and she sells the Varuses, so she's not going in that direction. It does seem like she wants to play Darkflight, so it was just a mistake missing the Rel. And if there has been a criticism of Rain's play, it is this. It's that she's not always the cleanest player. Her macro this term has been outstanding. She's played to multiple lines that other players in the field are not looking for. She's had a lot of success, but her micro decision-making, some of the positioning decisions, there's been a few moments when reviewing her VODs throughout the weekend where I've been scratching my head.
I think that it's also a position where I think her likelihood of going 8th is extremely high. She just spent a big amount of her war chest on level 6. She doesn't have a meaningful level 7 to roll down. She has really nothing to play for beyond the Zeke's on the carousel, and even then it's a very weak board setup. Rain is in dire straits.
She is. Meanwhile, we're hopping on board with K3 Soju, who's at 100 HP. He has lost fights this tournament, or this game, but he has Metabolic Accelerator, so he's back up to full. He has a Cannoneer Crest, he's got a Zeke's Herald, and he's got an Infinity Edge. I am relatively confident that we are heading into a Darkflight line, but it's worth noting we have not seen Nomsy yet, at least not to my knowledge, and there are some folks that have been starting to lean towards vertical Cannoneer Nomsy as a theoretical out. There is a Graves already online for Soju, so he has some options in front of him.
Yeah, really curious. I like how Soju has also made his board strong just by the virtue of having 2-star bruisers and giving a lot of HP. Cannoneers put out a lot of damage, but they often struggle with frontline, so this is a nice heads-up call. Now, that being said, look no further frontline than having this bruiser double trouble build coming out from Goobums, and now that has me asking, what are we going to double up on for Goobums' perspective?
We have seen iterations of Double Trouble Siphon at times get absolutely disgusting.
Another Double Trouble.
Another Double Trouble. Was that another Double Trouble with Better Together, or was that the other side?
Oh, that was Rainplosions.
Okay, it was. Okay, that makes sense. So we can take a quick beat and actually look at this. Okay, so we have 2 Double Trouble players. One of them is Goobums with the Bruiser Crest. One of them is Rainplosion, who seems to be heading towards Darkflight. We got word that it's actually Evoker Nomsy, so Soju is very likely not playing into a vertical Cannoneer line, which means I think he probably does pivot Darkflight ultimately in this game. Kyvix opted into Electro Charge, which synergizes very well with the second wind. There's a lot of kind of generic picks here, and then Prestivent also goes Swift Shot, so we have 2 people who are contesting the Swift Shot line in Robin and Prestivent.
Well, we'll take a look at Robin's perspective. Robin has been fairly consistent all tournament long, but his first 2 games have just not been it, as he's only been able to barely scrap top 4s and then finishing towards the bottom of the standing. So he's at 6th place. Does have this Varus right now, which lays a pretty decent groundwork for being able to pivot into a Xayah, or rather transition to Xayah, where he's to press the attack. The only question is, can you avoid rolling on 7? I think the problem with Xayah is that it's very tricky with over-rolling on 7 to be stable, because you sometimes pick up like pairs of like Hecarim or Jace, and you feel like you're inclined to keep rolling. Sometimes you get like a Xayah, but at the same time, it's such an expensive comp that's hard to fit at all, and I think that's where the nuance is often mixed up by a lot of players when they're playing Xayah line.
Yeah, that's a great point, and Xayah earlier on in the set was just so broken that you could basically play it from way behind and it was fine. But as Xayah has gotten nerf after nerf after nerf over the course of the set, we're starting to see it go a little bit in the other direction because it fell so hard out of the meta. But the reality of this line is it's very challenging to play it fully from behind. Most of the success we have seen with Xayah so far in this tournament has been from ahead when people have played it from behind. Unless they have hit really hard, they have oftentimes flamed out in the lobby and gone bottom too.
Yeah, that being said, I like the position Robin's in. All he really has to do is find, I think, a 2-star Varus. And I think the rest of his board's good. He's got upgraded Guardians. That's solid. He has ways to print gold through the Shimmer. That's also very good. And, you know, theoretically, if you can stall long enough for this Varus, that Rage Blade should be able to take care of most. But I worry that he needs to roll just a tiny bit, or else he's risking to slowly bleed that HP from 56, which he can't really afford to do.
Yeah, he really can't afford to do it. Meanwhile, on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, we have Kyvix, who is playing the only player on a win streak right now, and it is Goldmancer. So Kyvix is a little bit vertical into that Shimmer skill line. We haven't seen exactly how much it is, but we know from looking at the board in front of us that it is Mogul's Mail is the Shimmer 3 item, which means that Kyvix has at least 5 Shimmer going on his board.
Oh, wow. So Soju went from 100 HP and streaking just a couple rounds ago to missing a quarter of that. So, and he's been getting metabolic, so he's been taking beatings, which means Soju is likely to fast 8. Kyvix losing his streak is a really big deal as well. No one's in the optimal state of where they want to be, except Rain, who looks like she is rolling and hitting 2-star Rel, 2-star Rengar. We're on Kurum's POV, who's also rolling for his staple composition. This is the comp that Kurum has chosen to tie his horse onto for this entire weekend, which is the Seraphine Graves Bulldozer Water Gun. And it seems like Kurum's a Graves magnet, and once more he does it again! The Team Liquid Magician whips out a Graves 2 from his hat.
This is big deal for Kurum in this game. It feels like as we're watching more and more Seraphine Graves be played this tournament, the big difference between the ones that get stable, that win streak stage 4, that put themselves in these great positions to theoretically play for top 2 in the lobby, are the ones that hit the Graves 2 on the roll down. If you don't hit the Graves 2, it feels like you don't unlock enough of the damage after some of the nerfs that Seraphine has taken over the course of the last couple of patches. So all things coming up Kurum right now, he would like a Pantheon to tie this board together. He's holding kind of budget Pantheon on the bench with that Silas, chooses to put the Silas in, gives him the Whispers. He's got the full Synergy bar online. He's got the Graves 2 online. How will he deal with K3 Soju, who actually rolled down deep in this situation instead of fast 8ing?
That's right. Soju chose to commit to it, knows that he is contested because Rain also has double trouble. So, you know, it looks like no matter where Soju went, he was going to play a contested comp. He also has Archangel Swain, which is high risk, high reward. If you're able to protect Swain long enough with Dark Flight Essence, you will have some powerful scaling. But the downside is Swain isn't tanky, and a lot of the ways you can win the matchup is because they just can't burst Swain down fast enough, and you will drain tank his way to an overtime victory. We'll have to keep an eye on that as we head to the stage 4 Augment.
Taking a look at these options for Kurum, I'm not very excited about Portable Forge. It's an augment that's much stronger earlier in the game. Ancient Archives doesn't feel that good right now for this situation. Second Wind is okay, but the thing is, this composition does so well in the gold augments, especially with the cyber augments. He decides to rip it. He gets cybernetic implants. It's much better than the other options. All things coming up Kurum so far in this stage 4.
I think that was the right call. The thing about Second Wind is that while it's okay, your comp already has multiple variations of Second Wind built into all the shielding and the healing. And so you want to roll for something better. And cybernetic implants, I think a lot of people will say, like, well, why is it even that good? It just feels like it's only for Graves. But it's that everything will be attacking that much more. And usually all units survive for the big portion of the fight, so you're getting a lot of stats. Kind of similar to what Guild likes to do to a bunch of opponents. Looking at Robin, Robin has all in at 4-2, has picked up Itis Pair and a single Xayah. but he has that Varus 2, and we talked about how Varus 2 can be really important. Look at this Graves. No Edge of Night Graves. This is actually quite a high-risk situation for Kurum. Sorry, I was going to say Wisdom TFT 2. And a lot of people believe that because the one unit that you want to protect is Graves, he tends to put himself in a dangerous position with that quick draw, moving to the front line. Without Edge of Night, Kurum could find himself in an awkward position in this mid-game.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see Kurum not consider greeting items there. He had a Reforger. He could have gone for an Edge of Night component and tried to go for it off of the Carousel. Last Whisper is an okay Graves item, but it's really fallen out of favor in the Seraphine Graves line in the last couple of weeks as players have started to optimize it. Joining Precedent, who is still stuck at level 7, he found an early Yasuo with a Guild Emblem and a Titan's Resolve. That's a pretty solid build for Precedent, but he's got this Rage Blade and this Runin's Hurricane, and he was carrying a Varus 1, and now it's moving some items around. So he's doing his best to duct tape this together. It's very clear Precedent is just trying to play for maximum placements. If he can eke out a 6th in this game, he's in pretty good situation considering he did very well in games number 1 and number 2.
He's going against Sag, who was on a win streak, but did just get it snapped. But you can see Sag, like we said, was leaning towards Deja. Ends up getting that single copy of Deja, which should be stable. And there's just not enough DPS from Sag's board to be able to handle this big amount of pressure. And Preston was able to win a 7v8. Sag is at 8 with 20 gold. That's really promising. And also Sag took a Mirage Crest, which is not something, again, I told you that I don't personally like. I think a lot of people also struggle to make it work. I saw a board in China Regionals where they had 4 Mirage Crests or 4 Mirage Emblems to have 8 Warlord with Deja in the traditional guild or the IDA setup, and they still couldn't beat the Dragonborns.
Yeah, the vertical Mirage variant on Warlord specifically does not feel like it is it, but we didn't see his choices, so we don't know exactly what happened there. We can see everyone's full selections here on the left-hand side of our screen. Robin got a Swift Shot Crest to go on his Swift Shot line. Kyvix with a generic Thrill of the Hunt. Goobums grabs Big Friend, which will synergize very well with that Bruiser Crest, clearly leaning into the Bruisers. I think Goobums getting ready for a big board transition here as we head to his board. This is the pivotal stage for Goobums. A Siphon right away. We would like to get more of those if at all possible.
I think Goobums might try to do some dark tech. There's a belief that Double Trouble is just good if you play 2 of the same dragon. Remember from set 7 where you can only play 1 dragon? People were playing double Siphon and Double Trouble. And here we go, double Siphon on the board. He actually doesn't want to even hit a Siphon 2. And then your board can actually just be 2 Siphons, 2 Pantheons, Zyra plus Sylas. And that would be your board. And we've seen people win lobbies, even against stacked Dragon boards.
And I love how excited you are, and it's nice confirmation that you don't actually listen to me when we're up here, because when we were talking about earlier in the game, this is exactly what I was saying. I felt like Double Trouble Siphon makes a lot of sense. I've seen it pop off in niche situations, and I think Goobums has an excellent read on this. He's going to need to get the Siphon 2 plus an extra copy in order for this to really come online. And going up against Kurum's Graves 2 in the situation, it's not the full transition he's looking for, but he's got part of the way there. 2 Siphons going to be a pretty stable board at the end stage 4, going up against Kurum, who spent a lot of gold and got very strong. Speaking of a lot of gold, what was on the board just now?
That's totally fair, Bryce. In my defense, you yap a lot.
That is super fair.
But that's a really good call out, and I think that's exactly what we're about to see, and I think that's an excellent read early by Bryce Esports Law Blum. That's right, you heard it here, folks. He said it first.
I did, and I would like credit for saying it first, so I'm glad we got the record straight on that. Meanwhile, Goobums finds an extra copy of the Jace, so he's getting double trouble value on the Jace as well, electing to take the Siphon out right now. I agree with this decision. I think that the Siphon, the 2 Siphons, going to be really good once he gets to 4 copies, but having a second Siphon 1 unitemized on the board does not feel like it in this situation. He's leaning to the strength that he has available, which is that he's got a Jace 2 already with an Archangel slammed.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think part of the reason is just because he has no upgrades except for that Jace 2. It is partially that Siphon, but the rest of his board is also not upgraded. And while Goobums looked like he was in a really good spot early game based off the HP, things are not looking good right now. And I hate to say it, but if he takes another 8th place here, that could effectively eliminate him from that top 2 position. He would have to purely play for AVP, but with 2 8ths, that's just too much to come back from. Yeah,
it's a much less forgiving format today, going from 8 players down to 2 guaranteed, but there's still other things to play for example, getting into the LCQ, the AVP placement. A lot of TFT left to go, so we can't get too far ahead of ourselves in game number 3. Preston taking a lot of time thinking about this Order Treasure Dragon. He opts to go with the Radiant Bramble Vest, plus he's got the opportunity to either make Deathcap or a Morello here. Do we like this take?
So he does have his Xayah item set, and he actually can play Guild Crest onto the Shyvana if he hits it. This Bar 2 also feels kind of like bait because while it's nice to upgrade it, it's usually the last thing you want to upgrade because, like we said, the comp is really expensive. And a lot of this was predicated that he would be able to hit Shyvana. Otherwise, what is he going to do? He's not going to make a second, or he's going to make a Morello on top of this. The death cap, who does he even go on?
Yeah, and one thing that we have been criticizing for players throughout this tournament is that there's been a lack of willingness to greed Treasure Dragons specifically. I realized P-God needed to hold some gold to get to level 8 here. He's able to hit a Bard, so he gets a fairly meaningful power spike for his board, but it does feel like this Treasure Dragon is not going to have a huge impact on his board. That Radiant Bramble Vest will certainly be nice on the Zippy, but it's far from the best item we could think of, although it is quite good into Kyvix specifically with that Jeweled Gauntlet.
Okay, so he does put the Morello onto the Hecarim, which I think is a pretty decent combination with the Swift Shot. Covers most of the board. So yes, would you like to Morello the whole board? I think so. Stalling the Deja in the back. Kyvix has Earth's Angel, by the way, the Radiant Archangel, getting a lot of stats, but Deja's just as good as your front line. I guess Kyvix's front line's not that good. That being said, Kyvix has incredible amount of gold, so he's chilling. He's trying to go to level 9. Let's see if he's successful in it. As P-God finds Shyvana, that is exactly the unit that he's been angling for, but is he willing to break apart some of these key pieces in his board?
It looks like the answer is yes from what he's immediately put onto the bench here, but the thing is he's not going to get to the 6 Ragewing version of Xayah because he doesn't have Xayah yet. He's just got the one copy of Xayah with that cloak. He's carrying the Varus. It does feel like maybe he got weaker chatting.
At this point, do you even sell this? I just get the Spark onto the Shyvana. It's better that's on your board than on your bench. It puts a Rod without having Cybers. Oh. Kind of a slightly questionable decision here because if he was gridding these items until he hits Xayah 2, he can put the 3 items onto Xayah, pop off that cloak, and play for that Spark. That being said, it's easy to say it from here. He's under immense pressure right now. P-God is playing with a streak, but he's also playing for his life in this lobby, and that loss is devastating, only tied with his buddy Soju, and now all of a sudden, Kuba and Soju Precipice are 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, 6, 7, 8, all at the bottom, fighting to eke out placements. Precipice and Soju playing from way ahead points-wise, but Gubam's playing from way behind. He needs every point he can get his hands on if he wants to stay alive in this tournament, only 3 games in. Meanwhile, Kyvix, as you called out earlier, so much gold, such a powerful position. Just the Itis 1 is strong enough to stabilize this board. He chooses to go to level 9 here to improve his shop odds. This Deja with this Radiant version of the Archangel, plus the Goldmancer staff is just so powerful. We've seen Kyvix play from this spot multiple times so far in this tournament. We're ultimately going to probably find our way into a 4-dragon pivot, but he's going to do it slowly but surely.
Yeah, I really like how he's done it, and we talked about how he plays around those Guardians. He is very much in a good spot. Going up against Goobums, who does have that Siphon too, with that big friend. It is charging to the back line.
Oh.
Is he able to get the damage done before it? Does not look like to be the case. And Goobums does not have a way to deal with the Deja in the back, which means that Goobums is dead, but so is Soju from 1st to 8th, unless Goobums has him. And Goobums is going to go 8th, which is even more devastating for one of the best performers going to day number 3.
All 3 bottom 4s for Goobums, 2 8s for him. I'm not sure he'd gone 8th already in this tournament heading in. Such a bad start to the day. Will he have the mental fortitude to recover as we head into our Stage 5 carousel with only 6 players remaining? Kyvix tops out the lobby at 52. We've seen he's in an excellent position to be able to cap out his board around Dragons and win this game. Kurum is on a winning streak with that incredibly strong, like we said, hits the Graves 2, builds momentum from there. We haven't got a chance to check in with Rainplosion or Robin for a little while, so we're not sure exactly what their board states are as we rejoin Prestivan, trying to see if he can eke out a 5th, maybe even a 4th, which would be awesome from his situation.
I mean, it's such an unfortunate situation there for both Soju and Goobums. Needed big placements, right? Soju was in the lead, an opportunity to pad that, but at least he didn't go 8th. And he was contested by Rain, who seems to have found her way back into the top, and this seems to be a consistent theme amongst a lot of these players who just never say die. Taking a look at Prestivan's matchup, a last-second swap to the right corner, but these Rengars are fearsome to deal with because they will be jumping onto the backliners. These Swift shots are exactly the kind of food that Rengars eat for a balanced breakfast. Looks like Varus is ignored for just a second, but We are here for round number 2, and Varus is down. Can Persephone survive the damage that's coming his way? No! Friends stick together. It's a 6-7 for Persephone and K3 Soju.
And Sag going down in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as well. Will this be below Persephone? It's not. Sag ekes out a 5th by 1 HP. Our top 4 is secured. You have Kuramax win streaking at the top. Kyvix trying to figure out his way into a level 9 dragon-oriented board, and Raidplosion is streaking as well, and Robin with a solid top 4 here as well.
I mean, Kyvix is in his comfort zone. He's hitting level 9, rolling for dragons. Kernum's in his comfort zone. He's playing the Seraphine Water Gun Bulldozer comp with a Graves on level 7. Rainplosion able to play another come from behind strategy. I mean, at this point, you can't count Rainplosion out.
You cannot count Rainplosion out. She's so comfortable playing from behind on HP. She's been doing it consistently throughout the tournament. She's been hitting, but she's been playing to the correct outs and finding an enormous amount of success from these comeback positions. We look at this board from Kyvix, which is a great time to play him if you're Robin, because we are not fully transitioned yet. I expect Kyvix to get a lot more powerful before this game is over. This Xayah is wailing away on the Deja in the backline. Deja's able to stay alive for a little bit longer, but it's not going to be enough. This Itis winds up moving back. I think it was taunted by the Rakan. It stops doing its job, and there we go. An easy fight win for Robin to hang on to his 23 HP as we head into our Stage 5 neutral round.
Yeah, but it's a Death Blade. What do you want to do with a Death Blade? Nothing. You want to throw it out.
Yeah. Reforge it. Actually, you want to pull up twitter.com for as long as that website lives and DM Mortdog. But
leave this man alone. His DMs are fine.
No, I want to ask him how it's going. How are his cats? How's Malzahar?
Good point. That's a really good point. I agree.
Everyone. And then, why is Deathblade showing up on my dragon at the end of Stage 5?
God, you had me in the first half, not gonna lie. Will a Reforger drop alongside this Deathblade for Kyvix? Okay, it's not gonna happen, so we're gonna have a functionally useless item, but the big thing for Kyvix is hitting some of these big dragon upgrades. There's one of them, elects to sell, so he has the option to move the items, then hits the Aurelion Soul 2, the strongest carry in the game, and this is gonna be disgusting with this itemization. I also like the fact that he sold the Itis to give him the opportunity to maybe itemize this Terra if he's able to hit the 2-star. If not, these items can go back onto the Itis in this fight. Very clean decision-making from Kyvix on this level 9 roll down, and big hits available.
Oh, upgrades almost the entirety of his boards in one round, and what a time for Rainplosion to play it. The only thing is he doesn't have items on.
He misclicked. He put a Bramble Vest. Oh, wait. Maybe
was that a misclick?
No.
He's going up against Assassins, which can stop the critical strikes, which can be important, but doesn't even matter. No, the Blitzkrieg is just too fast, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units surviving. And by the skin of his teeth, Kyvix lives for another day. Does Robin, Kurum, Rainplosion have it in them to be able to win past this dragon board? Robin right now trying to go up against his water gun board, comes down to the last shot, and it is good for Kurum X. Team Liquid Civil War. Guess that Marvel's campaign actually worked out for him, working out in game.
Yeah, it really is working out in game. Meanwhile, Kyvix does intentionally put this Bramble Vest onto the Aurelion Soul. That will be good if you can hide the Aurelion Soul from that Rengar in a later fight, because it will mean it has high enough armor that it's not going to jump onto it. It's bad if it gets jumped on right away, because it's still capable of dying to that incredibly powerful board that Rainplosion has put together.
Yeah, I think that this is a situation where Kyvix has to be willing to not greed the Terror Hexes, and you can see he's doing exactly that. Aurelion still can't get surrounded, and when he's in the center, he's very much going to target for a lot of aggression. So, by tucking away in the corner, remove that greed, Kyvix has recognized one giant gaping weakness in his composition. There's not many to this dragon, but that is one of them.
Yeah, the flip side is while it's really good into the Rengar matchup, it is terrible into these other matchups going up against Kurum, who there's no Bramble Vest on the front line, which means that this Graves is getting through the front line much faster. And okay, this Aurelion Soul is tankier, but it ultimately dies. I really think this was the wrong decision from Kyvix. I think he got too cute in this spot. He could have positioned around that Rengar. He could have put that Bramble Vest in the front line. He could have cornered his whole board, clumped up to deal with the Rengar board, and he would have had a much better situation to deal with Kuramax, but c'est la vie, nothing we can do about it now. We got to move on with the players that are still alive as we look at this matchup between Kuramax and Rainplosion.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. We can return to that later, but right now it's an opportunity for Rainplosion to put her stamp and separate herself even further from the pack. Remember, Rain's not just playing for 1-2, she's also playing for best average placement. And we'll see as she's going up against Kurum against the first of a couple of battles coming up here.
Yeah, 33 and 38 HP respectively. We see Rainplosion on that winning streak. Kurum opting to keep his Graves in the full back corner, trying to keep it safer away from these Rengars. It's on to the Rengar now. Okay, now Graves is dashed away and Rengar's away from it, so the carries are away from one another. It's all going to come down to which carry kills the other one first, but Rain has additional sources of damage left available. These Aphelioses are pitching in a little bit, plus she's got the Radiant Vow, but there we go. The Graves is able to DPS. Is it going to be able to survive against both of these Aphelioses? The double trouble, the extra stats, just too much, and we have one fight win in the books for Rainplosion. Is there an item here that could swing anything? I'm eyeing a Bramble Vest. Did not work out for Kivix, but it could theoretically work out for Kurum. And that's exactly what he is going to grab. You saw Rainplosion dashing for her as well. She's going to opt for a Giant Slayer. Does either of those things swing this matchup in your eyes?
Yeah, it's really interesting because Giant Slayer doesn't seem to have room. She has to put it on an Aphelios unless she wants to get one fewer Zeeks onto her Rengar, for example. So this is some of the dynamics that it's a little bit awkward with Double Trouble, Darkflame in particular. There's just not enough item slots sometimes for what you want to do. And so I do think that that is worth asking a question if he just wants to put on the Rengar, or she wants to put it on the Rengar rather versus just Aphelios. I like it on the Rengar 3. I think it makes a lot of sense. Just try to get that burst going and see whether or not this fight can swing the other way. Kurum has this backline terror to help intercept the Rengars as well, maybe adding a little bit of damage Morello onto the terror. I'm not entirely sure if that's working the way you want it to, but will these Hexes provide enough support? It looks like the Graves is just outmatched, and that is another win here for Rainplosion, who will continue her streak. 9 wins in a row, the comeback queen. Can she finish it before stage 7?
We started the day by talking about how fearlessly she has played. She has been willing to greed items. She's been willing to trade HP in the early game and find these rubber band situations in a meta where most players are struggling to find these outs. Rain is doing it time and time again, and as the Dark Flight line, it feels like, has pushed more and more into Swain-oriented compositions. She goes the traditional version of the Double Trouble. She doesn't play the Swain. She goes for Aphelios 3, Rengar 3, Rel 3, hits them all. Great itemization. She has won both these fights fairly decisively so far. Is this another win for Rainplosion in game number 3?
Frontline Graves. Kurum X has thrown the playbook out the window and says, I am just going to go straight for it. Graves tries to go onto the frontline Rel, but meanwhile the Rengars are moving to the back line. A back line ZZ Rod trying to stall for as long as possible. Who is going to scale harder? But the Aphelios finished off the Graves, and I think that Rain is able to finish it here. Make it rain for game number 3 at the Grand Finals. Rainplosion comes up big once again in the North American Regional Championship.